chase success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne or...
Yay! We're here, John. We're here. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. It's a long day, busy day, productive day, enjoyable day. So yeah, all good.
Of course, you work as well, right? So,
I have,
you got a high-powered job whilst doing help for Ukraine.
yeah, I mean, Help for Ukraine is something we started at the beginning of this war. There's all sorts of people argue, and I would agree with them that the war actually started 13 years ago, but it started with what we in most of the West considered the war. But yes, it's just a lot of my spare time and other people's spare time, but a lot of my spare time. I have a job otherwise.
Wow, it's a big thing. So I have no idea how my friends are going to react or respond. But we have done a couple of Ukraine-related shows in the past. I guess a different kind of, ask of my friends, right?
But there's also different layers to it. There's people working on the humanitarian, and then within that, there's different needs, different asks. Then there's people who, are more supportive of the military, and then there's people obviously have opinions right across the scale, for it, against it, whether they see it in the bigger context, whether they, and people have issues about. Yeah, everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a view, and there are many moving parts. So it's not that.
So I can see everyone's got a view, but I guess I just laugh. I see it because when I send DMs, I guess many people are like, "Oh, I can't make it." Maybe they can't make it. Well, at least some of them have a view, which is their rights, as you say, right? It's up to them to have a thought and to see things as they do.
Yeah, and the irony of all of that is we live in a society, we live in a country where we are all entitled to our views and opinions and to be heard. I don't have to agree with you. That's okay. You don't have to agree with me. That's also okay. Try having that kind of conversation where you have an opposing view in certain countries slightly further east than we are now that are causing problems in Ukraine. At least we have that.
No, look, I would talk like a ghost, saying that even though if you're talking, you carry on. It's fine.
No, look, I mean, everyone has a view, everyone has an opinion, and at one end of the spectrum, I get people coming up. They want to help, they want to get involved, they want to understand what we do, and we're purely humanitarian. And within that, the majority of people are going, I want to help you. I wouldn't say that. I've had people say I don't support the war, but that doesn't mean I don't want to help the innocent in all this. But we also have people that understand what we do and want to get in and want to help, and that's fine. And we have other people who have it's not our war, we shouldn't be involved. And again, that's your opinion, and I'm happy to agree with you on that in some respects. But we're humanitarian. These are farmers going out trying to grow the corn that you eat. So, and then you have other people. I've had people come up to me at events, networking events, for example, and say, "That's great. You only care about Ukraine. What about?" And then they list.
Everywhere else.
No, and that is absolutely fine. This is, this matters to me. I care about it. We're doing something about it. And if you have something that you care about, please go make a difference. If we all did something, just think of what we could do. Now, I'm not going to, if you want to go and support what's going on in the Middle East, and there is more than just, what's going on in Israel and Lebanon right now. There are many, many other conflicts in Syria and other parts, and, Eritrea and the hook of Africa. And then right across Africa, there is conflict. And then we've got conflict in some parts of Asia. So whatever you want to go do, please go do and make a difference. I'm just doing this and trying to make a difference with this. That's fine.
I agree. No, I suppose like a good place to start. Look, my friends, if you're here, drop us a comment. I see there's people here, but I can't see who you are. So do say something. Say hi. Say where you're joining us from. I guess share some of your thoughts. How's your day going? There's many things you can say, right? Say something so I can welcome you properly. So I should wait until people do. But so, John, in the meantime, look, tell us about you. Tell us now, paint a picture so we know what you do, who you are, and what drives you.
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of people, I have a job. I just happen to work in central London. I love my job. I love the company. They're very supportive of what I do and what everyone does. But Help for Ukraine is something that came into being 3.5 years ago. And it came into being because my wife is originally from Ukraine. And my mother-in-law was visiting us. And we just watched the tanks parked on the border and knew what was going to happen. And lo and behold, it did, very unfortunately. So she was still here with us at the time. She was visiting, so she would come and visit. And after about 3 days of watching what was happening, and if you think back, we had, tanks on the outskirts of Kiev. We had, atrocities. We had that. If you remember, there was that theatre where the children hid underground, and they painted on the tarmac, children, and it still got hit by a missile. We had Butcher. We had all these things. But in all of that, there was this lovely old lady, who just happens to be my mother-in-law, watching the country that she knew just being destroyed by people that she considered friends all her life. You've got to understand that she grew up and worked through the Soviet Union. And the best way I can describe the Ukraine-Russia border is it's a bit like England-Scotland. It's incredibly porous. People just go backwards and forwards across, and they have a lot of common identities, and they and so on and so forth. And a lot of people in that part of Russia speak Ukrainian. Ukraine, as in any imperialistic sort of approach, a lot of Ukrainians speak Russian because they were expected to, they were told to. In the communist regime, that was taught, and in business, that was what you need to speak. So this thing about protecting the Russian language, that's because it's been imposed on them anyway. We're kind of getting into politics, so I'll stop at that point. But I watched this old lady just getting torn apart by what she was seeing happening in her country to people that she'd known and worked with all her life, and rang a good friend of mine, a chap called Mark, and said, I've no idea what I'm going to do, but I really feel like I want to do something. He mentioned that him and a couple of friends were raising money to buy an ambulance, and I just said, I'm in. We raised some money, not knowing what to do, to buy a few ambulances, and it just went from there. We bought a few ambulances. We didn't really know. We had to learn all the paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork in things like that, and what you can and can't put in it, where you have to deliver it to. We wanted to absolutely make sure it went to the right people, the needy people, and not, let's be honest, in all walks of life, there are people that will see an opportunity to make a buck, whether that's members of the House of Lords in COVID or whatever. But anyway, we just decided to do that. And then off the back of that, I got introduced to Nicholas Munson, who was like-minded. He wanted to raise money to deliver ambulances, and we founded Help for Ukraine 3.5 years ago, and right now we're at 58 ambulances and a fire truck. Fire truck's a long story, but we're at 58 ambulances and a fire truck. So we'll keep going as long as we're needed. We just deliver ambulances, medical aid, purely humanitarian, to wherever it's needed. But very specifically, this ambulance is going to this person at this hospital, with this equipment in it. So we're very, very detailed in what we do. And that's it. Sorry.
Awesome. That's a lot of things you do. So I got two of my friends in the studio. Welcome, Anthony. So Anthony and I have a show later on today. We're going to talk about why we suffer. Yes. Anthony loves an interesting conversation. That's that. I'll put it that way. The conundrums of life. Why the things for which there's no answer in my books. But he finds an answer.
Some people choose to suffer, but let's not.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. That's my take, right? Selena, I see you as well. How are you doing? Anthony's in the US, but Anthony, talk to us. And so we'll come back to your event, John. That's your event to the 9th. So we'll come to that in good time. So I've got a video of your work to show, so it's people actually get a good idea You know, I think you described it very well there. You know, it is an ambulance for Ukrainians, for the civilian population in Ukraine to get the help they need, right? That's what
Yeah,
we're trying.
an ambulance has a life expectancy of 6 months because Russians target ambulances with drones.
Now, if you look at the picture behind me, permit me quickly, my friends. So let me do it quick so you can see the picture. I'll bring you right back. So now you can see the picture behind me, right? That is what happens to ambulances. And I said,
So they're targeting specifically
that's
ambulance.
quite scary. God, Anthony, please carry on.
So I was just already thinking about like, first of all, the ambulances, they're taking them back to the Ukraine, or is it just taking them to local help within the border now?
No. The process. Obviously, the process begins with raising money. We then have people approaching us all the time, with needs and requirements. We have to vet them because obviously we want to make sure it goes to the right people, and there are a lot of people with needs. There are also a lot of people, let's be honest, slightly unscrupulous. So we carefully vet them. We then load an ambulance with whatever supplies we can get that are relevant to it. So if it's going to a children's hospital, it'll have something slightly different to if it's going to an Army Medical Corps. But then the team, and they're all volunteers, myself included, none of us get paid a penny. It's purely voluntary. We even pay our own, when we're traveling there, our own hotel and food bills. We drive to Ukraine. We go across the border. We have a team based in Lviv, which is an hour and 20 minutes across the border in the west of Ukraine. It still gets hit, so it can be a bit challenging sometimes. We drive across the border. We hand over to our team in Lviv, and then they do the last leg, if you like. Now, every ambulance that if you like, we fund and we buy and we deliver, we do an end to end completely. We don't drop it at the border. We don't hand it over to a third party. So one of the last tour we did, the last mission we did, we had 8 ambulances. One, for example, went to the power station in Cherkasy because theirs got damaged rescuing people from a building that got hit. So we replaced it, but we didn't just send it to the power station at Cherkasy. We actually dealt with one of the directors, one of the senior managers at the power station to justify the need, but then also to make sure that he personally signed for it. So it is end-to-end, guaranteed delivery, but guaranteed with everything that goes in the back of it as well. We do a full manifest check. So we're as thorough as we could possibly ever be.
Okay. And when you were saying that 6-month lifespan is that specifically like for ambulances, or is that kind of like for other vehicles as well, or is it they're just targeting those?
So we only concern ourselves with ambulances. I mean, I'm not sure, there's a lot of people delivering, SUVs and 4x4s and stuff. I've no idea on those, but an ambulance is an average life of 6 months. And that's because most of them aren't hit. The one you saw there, a building fell on it because the building was hit by a missile. It was in use at the time. You can fill in the details yourself on that. Most of them only last 6 months purely because they just get worked to death. They are worked 24 hours a day. They maintain them to a really good degree, but they just wear out. And they're driving over pretty rough terrain. The roads have been bomb-holed all the time. So then they harvest them for spares. So we did some analysis. If you take how many people an average ambulance will pick up in a week, the amount it costs us to buy the ambulance, we have to buy them, fill it up, deliver it, and then return the crew home safely. £4.66 is the cost to save one life.
Wow.
Oh, that's not much at all.
Mm.
That's awesome. I guess the engineer in me just started thinking like, with the amount of that's going into this, I wonder if it wouldn't be worth it to like have some vehicle that's not quite an ambulance, but just designed for the terrain, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, a valid point. So let's begin with that. So okay, what could we send? Well, we could send an SUV, we could send a 4x4, we could send a pickup truck. Okay, we could. Pickup trucks are great. You can put a body on the back. I'm talking about a living body clearly, but you could put it on the back and then drive very fast. And some people do that. You could take a minibus but the problem with the minibus is the roof is much lower. Got lots of seats which are in the way, and it's difficult to get people who are injured in and out, or they're elderly and infirm. We try to evacuate them from somewhere. So it's smaller in stature. It also has smaller wheels. So let's begin with like a minibus. That's incredibly difficult. It's just not practical to get people in and out very easily. Forget that. An SUV, that's great. Do you know what happens with all the blood? It soaks into the carpet, it soaks into the seats, it soaks into the fabric. Not a good idea. A 4x4, great. Put some people on the back and then run away very quickly. That does tend to get used by the army, but we don't serve that need. We serve the need after that. So we'll be taking people from maybe like a MASH, if you remember that, a MASH, a mobile surgical unit, back to a major hospital. And the reason we need ambulances is it's easy to get stretchers in the back. It's easy to get people in the back. It's taller. It's bigger. It has boxes and storage. It has lots of power supplies. There's plugs and sockets everywhere. I'll be slightly on the mark now. It's easy to wipe down. So there are a lot of good reasons why an ambulance absolutely is the right thing. The fact it has sirens and blue lights and a few other things as well, right?
That all helps. Anthony, I saw Anthony have a problem with his sound all of a sudden. So that's why I'm never a fan of earphones. It tends to go skew with, but you never know it's going to go skew with until it's gone skew with. So suddenly you can't hear, or we can't hear you. It's like, But hopefully we'll come back. Selena, thanks for joining us. I'll come to you in a second. So let's talk to Jay. How are you doing, Jay? So Jay's a storytelling strategist. So he's the one who writes, who helps people tell their stories in a way that has an impact. Whether it's a wedding story, funeral story, literally business story. And he's written a book about it, a best-selling book. So welcome, Jay. I see you. So Jay said, my grandparents were placed in concentration camps during World War II. They weren't soldiers or civil servants. They were regular, everyday civilians. And he goes on to say, my elders didn't have any help during 3 years of occupation.
I mean, if you go back to the post-Second World War, there's been, the rules of war have been rewritten, right? Civilians are no longer fair game. If you think about, what happened, the Blitz and things like that, and the mass bombings and destroying sort of infrastructure, that's exactly what Russia is doing. Russia is adopting a Second World War mentality, which is we'll destroy the infrastructure. Now, I know people will say, hang on a minute, Ukraine is destroying infrastructure as well. It is, but it's trying to, in effect, stop what was it? It was an American politician is described Russia as a gas station dressed up as a country. So Ukraine is trying to sort of break the cycle of oil, fuel, money, war. They're trying to break the cycle. But if you look at what Russia's doing, it's indiscriminate. And to Jay's point, in the Second World War, anyone was fair game. But after that, we had all of the various conventions, the various Geneva Conventions, the various United Nations agreements, and all that kind of stuff. The rules of war are very simple. If you're a combatant, you're fair game. If you're not, you're to be left alone. So what's happening in Ukraine is, and you kind of watch the news and you say, well, why have they hit that city tonight? And why did they hit that one 3 days ago? It's because every time you go to sleep at night, you're never sure if it's going to be your city that gets hit. And when you're in bed at night, you're never sure if it's going to be your building or the one next door or the one next door. Now, that's an incredible situation to be in, but that's the point why Russia is kind of doing this constant moving around, because you're always on your toes. You never know. And that's a massive mental strain on the people of Ukraine. But we can't serve that. We can't do anything to prevent the missiles and drones coming in. We can't do anything for mental health for those people, because that's just not what we do. There are other groups doing that. We just want to make sure that if a building does get hit, there's a vehicle that can deal with the fallout of that in the morning or in the middle of the night. We want to be there that if people are getting hurt for whatever reason, we can get them to a place where we can save their life.
Good on you, my friend. Good on you. Mr. David Cliff, my favorite human. I mean that sincerely. Me and David go back years. Well, we'll go back to about 2018, if I remember rightly, when I moved to Cornwall. Dr. David Cliff is a legend.
He's on mute.
Yeah, I muted him, but it's unmuted now.
I've come off muted. Yeah, I just thought I'd look in
how are you?
and just lend a bit of support to the cause, because I think the danger is we live in a world which has a very short attention span, and turn the page and it's gone. And I've seen so many examples of Ukraine being subject to that, where it simply goes off people's awareness until there's the next bit of media awfulness that gets headlines and gets momentary attention. And the mature debate is held by really some of the better journalists that keep coming back to issues. But it goes off the boil for the public, and I have to say it goes off the boil politically as well. And that to me is the sadness behind it all. And the problem in that is it's not just the lived experience of people, it's actually the failure to foment policy that actually is in any way decisive on this thing. Ukraine has seemed to me to have a conditional war based on its funders, whereas Putin is in an unconditional position.
Yeah, it has principles that it's adopting in terms of its war effort. You're absolutely right. I mean, look, we all got fed up with COVID. We all got fed up in this country with Brexit. You know, we do get fed up in news. That's true. That's human nature. We want something else. I think you're right. You know, but we're even beyond that. If there's something absolutely dramatic happened in Ukraine, it barely sort of made a blip on the news. I think we're beyond the whole. It has to be a standout moment. You know, I think the last standout moment from the war that really sort of punched through every piece of media was Operation Spiderweb. Now, that's obviously not something we're involved in. That's at the other end of the scale. But that was just off the scale, sort of, you know, in terms of publicity. I think the reality is you've got situations where a lot of people see what's happening as a European war. I get regularly asked, you know, how far away are we from World War III? So people have that concern. And then you've got in the USA, you've got very complex politics, and some people just don't even understand why they're involved. Yet, you know, we live in a world of NATO, so it is incredibly complex. I will say, for good or for bad, Mr. Trump has certainly put Ukraine back on the front pages again. So, you know,
I mean, I think Europe's had to wake up, because Europe, of all places, it's complacent about a war in its own backyard, and it's had it for ages. And people are just fudging, because if GDP to borrowing was lower, we'd see a lot more help for Ukraine. But because it's not, it seems to be contrived. And I think the other issue is the denial that, yes, we're talking about this being a European war, but I also feel we are at war with Russia in so many ways. We're constantly subject to cyber attacks. Commerce is, if not by state, actively supported and encouraged by state. We're constantly having the boundaries tested. And I actually do think that any World War III will start with cyber attacks, the destruction of critical communications infrastructure, cables, pipelines, stuff like that, before a shot is even fired by an enemy. And we're sleepwalking into that. And it's unfortunate that I didn't live through the Second World War. My parents did. And I at least have enough of their memory to know that when we drop our guard on such things, particularly for economic considerations in the short term and the state of the markets, we do so at our peril.
I mean, the NATO thing is interesting. We've been underpaying for ages, but then there's the whole accountancy thing. We don't account for American air bases within our 2%, and all that. So it's a bit of a fudge, a lot of it. But I do think that, it's brought a lot of things into focus that hitherto were never addressed. It's probably not the best of reason for doing it. But when people, your comment about, sleepwalking into World War III and all that kind of stuff, we are already there. The simple reality is, it's just a much slower ramp up in a much smaller theatre of operation. But if you look at the countries supporting Russia, and then you look at the countries supporting Ukraine, tell me that's not a world war. Now, then you get people going, well, it's not in our backyard. Well, I've got news for you. I live in southwest London. I've driven an ambulance and been inside Ukraine in 22 hours. Okay, I was driving it very fast, and we take the speed limiter off. But that's how close it is. You can drive to Ukraine in less than a day. So when people say, oh, it's a long way away, or when people say it's not in Europe, but it is in Europe, and it's directly north of Turkey. And it's slightly west of some of the countries that you might consider Europe, So it's happening now. Whether how that will manifest itself, what will happen, I agree with you with cyber. I agree with you, drone warfare. You talk about Russia. We've been too soft on Russia. They've been coming over here and poisoning people, and we've kind of sent to.
We see the message is we're all right with that, or we're a pushover. And the problem is universal, whether you're dealing with a dictator who runs a country or you're dealing with somebody in the schoolyard.
Yeah.
The only way to deal with someone like that is to redraw the boundaries quickly, effectively, and unequivocally, so the message is clear. And I'm afraid Europe just has not done that. We've preferred the cheap gas and whatever else, which itself may actually be an instrument of war. Maybe part of a grander strategy.
Well, I of course it was. It was. I mean, people generally have regarded until recent history Merkel as a fantastic German leader. That's becoming challenged now because of the coziness she had with Russia. So yes, we've been spoon-fed cheap oil for years, and now we're trying to wean ourselves off, and not everyone wants to. And in the meantime, they've built a massive piggy bank. So that's politics. That's history. That's nothing I can do or can control. I can only control what I can control. I don't watch the news, for example, because there's nothing on there that I can do anything about, and it's distressing. So I don't watch it. I control what I can control. And what I can control is raising money, buy an ambulance, deliver it, save someone's life. Someone's life. It's not very grand to say that, but it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And we're an open church. So anyone wants to help, come and help. We'll
Thinking back on the aspect that you have control over, you were saying you took the speed limiter off the vans and you're driving them fast, right? So what's the temperature like? I feel like that might introduce certain wear that, might be like an overheating, or just when things are operating for long hours at high temperatures and they start to fail quicker.
No, I mean, in terms of when the ambulance is delivered to Ukraine, it's in better health than when it leaves my house. And the reason being, these are diesel vehicles and they're doing stop, which is the worst thing for a diesel truck, right? By the time it gets there, it's done 800 miles, driven at a nice steady pace. It's cleaned it all out. It's in good nick. It's in better nick than when it left. But you're right. I'm not saying we drive it like we stole it, but I am saying we don't stick at 55 miles an hour.
Well, long distances, high speed are always good for good bearing wear. So I think that's that's fair enough. So how many? I'm coming a little late to this. So how many ambulances have you got across there? What's the endeavour? If I was to say, what was the ask from an audience tonight in terms of supporting what you're doing and supporting Ukraine in general, what would your answer be to that?
So what have we done? We've delivered 58 ambulances, and we have delivered nearly 300 tons of medical aid and equipment. Again, I'll reinforce, just medical aid and equipment. There's nothing that goes bang. And one fire truck. Another story for another day. So 58 ambulances. We've done 13 missions. We call them missions, and they tend to be a convoy of anything between 2 or 3, and the last one was 8. Those ambulances stay there. We deliver them with a full tank of gas, full tank of diesel. They do not get handed over with anything less than a full tank. And they're packed to the roof with all sorts of medical aid and equipment that we have deals with the Department for Health, with the FCO, with various other organizations, with companies that donate and sponsor us, health companies and so on and so forth. So we pay for as little as possible. We have to buy the ambulances. The guy we buy the ambulances off, we now get them at cost because we bought so many and we have such a good relationship with them. So that saves money. The people who go, they pay their own food and beverage. If you want to take 3 days, it will just cost you a few more beers, a few more dinners, and a few more hotels. If you want to do it in a day, it's a bit cheaper. In terms of the ask is really, really simple. If there's a number of things you can do. If you want to get involved, just in some way or other, loading ambulances or driving them, contact me. If you're a corporate sponsor, a business sponsor, and you want to donate, get in touch, and we can do charity offsets and all the rest of it. We've had companies in the past that have said we want to undertake our own delivery. We want to deliver 2 ambulances, and in the nicest way, we don't want you involved, or we don't want you to be seen to be involved. We don't want we want to do it our way. So it's got our branding on the side of the ambulance. So this company put their branding down on the side of the ambulance. 4 of their staff drove it. We delivered the ambulances to their office. We delivered a truckload of medical equipment. So everyone came out of their office and loaded it. So everyone in the company was involved. And then they drove. We found the recipients for them to hand over. We arranged the rendezvous. They drove to Lviv. They handed over. They got all the press and all the PR that they wanted. They were actually on regional BBC News. They were in a national newspaper. And of course, it's a tax write-off, and they all came home and felt jolly good. If you want to do that, we can arrange that. If you want to drive your own ambulance, there's a package we put together. You raise your own, Just Giving or GoFundMe page. Once you've got to $4,500, that's it, $4,500. Now, for some people, that's a lot of money. It's not much to save a few lives. $4,500 will get you half an ambulance delivered. So we'll pair you up with someone else. Suddenly, with $9,000, everything's bought and paid for, including at that point your hotel and dinners and everything else. So if you want to do, so start a Just Giving page, but contact us first, and we'll tell you what to do. If you're a corporate sponsor, contact us, and we'll tell you what to do. We've got a dinner.
Yeah, I can think of a few corporate sponsors that might be open to that, especially given what you describe, what you do is out of kilter with the price point you've described, which actually makes it a much more attractive proposition.
We're not. I don't even claim my expenses, right? We're not a big charity where we have people to pay. Our costs are very simple. An ambulance and some diesel and a flight home, because you need to come home afterwards, and that's it. And some people don't want to go across the border, and I understand that. We can arrange it so that we'll get it across the border for you, and we're fine with that if that's not what you want to do. But if you want to go across the border, we can do that. Spend the night in Lviv, and then we extract you home safely the next day, and then a flight back from Poland.
See, the way I describe it is the people pay to run the London Marathon. John told me this, and if you're going to pay now, you can also pay to drive an ambulance into a war zone. Why not?
I mean, I would.
Look. My job here is getting done. If you and Dr. David can talk, John. It's what these events are. Now talk after, see where it might lead, right? You've made my day, Dr. David. Well, you know that already. Just seeing you just cheers me up no end. Let me go to the comments quickly, and I come to you, Anthony, if that's all right. So there are a couple of comments I want to go through. Mr. Cyrus, welcome. I see you, our podcaster in chief. Glad you're here. My friend Lou's in the Netherlands, an event host, networker in chief as well. Glad you're here. My best friend on LinkedIn, my best friend in the world, really, Dr. Lisa Bevek, menopause dietitian expert. So I really want to get to Alexander's comment. So Alexander says, my grandmother stayed in Cherkasy, is that how you pronounce it? And it's truly
Cherkasy. Yes, Cherkasy, yep.
There's almost no shelter and hardly ever enough time to get to the nearest one, especially when rockets are flying. Thank you for covering this, John. So that's important to me.
So we've delivered 2 ambulances. This is how detailed we are. We've delivered 2 ambulances to Cherkasy. I can tell you where every ambulance went to. I'd have to think about some of them, but Cherkasy, we've delivered 2 ambulances. One of the very first ambulances we delivered went there, and it went to the Army Medical Corps because they were at the time, they weren't too close to the front line, but they were relatively close. There was a big Army medical camp there, so they were ferrying people back from first stage Army medical base to the main Army base. So we delivered an ambulance to them. The second ambulance went a couple of months ago, and that went to, as I said, the power station in Cherkasy. Now, Cherkasy is right in the middle of the country, bang in the middle. And you would think, well, hang on, the Eastern Front is over there. No, it still gets hit. They're still targeting the power station. They're still targeting ordinary people because when people go to sleep at night, it's terrifying. So Alexander, thank you. We'll continue to keep doing what we're doing, and it's difficult. But yeah, we know where everyone went, and two have gone to Cherkasy. So
no, it's great work you do, my friend. So apparently Paulette is here as well. Paulette is another one of my best friends, really one of my bestest friends. Now, UK people, so only a few of us do events, sadly. But let me say Dr. David's here, Paulette's here, Cyrus is here, who else is here? That's in the UK. I'm sure there's more. So, but you have to learn to comment to my UK friends, right? You have to say something, otherwise I can't see you. I know you're here. I don't know who's who, right?
I mean, you talked about UK. So, I mean, we are a UK organisation, and the interesting thing is, Anthony and David, you're both here. When we drive and we stop for fuel, and when we do the hard driving, sometimes we literally, you are sleeping, sitting up in an ambulance, and you are drinking coffee when it's your time to drive, and the only other time you stop is for diesel and for the obvious. We don't always do that. Sometimes we take a number of days, but the reality is, when you stop for fuel, there's a chance you'll meet other people doing the same thing from other countries. I've met people from Spain, from Italy, from France, from the Netherlands, doing the same as we're doing. There's lots of groups out there doing that because they passionately believe in helping people. We are based in the UK. We have two teams, one team in the northeast of England and one team in London. And we raise, you talked about events, we raise money at events. That's, we either raise money through corporate sponsorship and donors, people wanting to buy their own mission, or at, very nice events in very nice venues in central London. So that's how we do it.
I guess that leads us to your black tie gala thing on the night.
Yeah, so next Thursday we have a black tie dinner. We have it's at a 5-star hotel called the Mayfair in Mayfair. So it's an exceptionally, it's a very, very swanky venue. The Mayfair Hotel has been incredible, and very, very supportive of what we're doing, very helpful. So that's enabled us to put on this really cool event. Black tie dinner with an auction and some other things. We've got 3 speakers. Earlier you talked about journalists. So one of the speakers is a guy called Andrew Fox, who writes for Telegraph. He's been on the BBC. He's lectured in all sorts of places. He's actually spoke in the House of Lords, I think. He spoke in, anyway, he's an exceptionally gifted journalist, and he is one of our 3 speakers. And a month ago, he was in a town called Pokrovsk. Now, Pokrovsk, if you scratch your head, you would have heard about in the last month. He was 1.7 kilometers from the front line, delivering a vehicle that a supporter of ours kindly donated to him. But he was, near the front line, looking after ordinary people. He wasn't talking to the soldiers. He was talking to people just living in houses, trying to get on with life. So he's one of the speakers. The other speaker is a retired major in the Ukrainian army, but he was an army chaplain. So he's seen some pretty tough stuff. So, and then we've got another speaker talking about what it's like to basically live under a blanket of drones every night. But all that said, it should be lively, fun, and informative as well. So hopefully, and if anyone wants to, I think we've got some tickets left. If you want to book a ticket, if you go to Help for Ukraine, the number 4 .charity, then you can find the tickets.
That's
End of plug. I'll stop plugging.
No, you have to plug. You have to plug. You're here to plug.
Absolutely have to plug.
My
I'm going to have
friend,
to take my leave, as I have this popped up on my screen, and I felt I had to come along to it. But I do have a failing battery.
thank you so much. Thank you.
John, I certainly would welcome a dialogue post hoc. Perhaps if you could pass on my details.
Yeah, I'll connect you in a group chat.
I'd certainly like to talk to see what some of the representatives in my business community might want to put their shoulders to the wheel over on this.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Excellent. That's Dr. David knows everyone in the IOD. north?
Well, it's an ugly rumour. No, I defected. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
It's a long story, but it's
Yes, let's leave that well alone.
It's not governance. But there we
look,
go. Anyway,
if you're
so I'm going to wish you well, John.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet other people here tonight. I'll take my leave if I may, Annie. But I didn't want to miss this, so forgive me if I hop in and hop out.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.
Well,
Actually,
I'm going to show you a quick video, John, and then we'll carry on talking. That way people have a good idea.
Cool.
One of the news reports I found on your website. So.
Ukraine approaches. A group from East Yorkshire have bought 4 ambulances filled with medical supplies and driven them to Lviv to donate them to those in need. Simon Revell from the Bridges charity had planned to buy just 1 ambulance, but ended up raising more than £36,000. Simon filmed his journey to Ukraine.
So here we are on departure day. Everybody just getting the vehicles sorted out. Well, the original project was me and a mate to take an ambulance with some medical supplies down to Ukraine. We hoped to raise about £7,000. It went mad. We raised over 36,000. So today we're taking 4 ambulances full of medical supplies.
Little bit of apprehension. More about driving on the right than entering an active war zone.
Ukraine is a country that for decades has enjoyed freedom and democracy and the right to choose its own destiny. We and the world cannot allow that freedom just to be snuffed out.
It's nearly 2 years now that Russia invaded Ukraine. I've watched the news over that time period. My heart goes out to the Ukrainian people. So to be able to do this, 4 ambulances filled with medical supplies to help out not only military casualties but civilian casualties is a real privilege. The Ukrainians didn't deserve what they got, so to give a little, and especially being ex-military, I think it's something that is never going to be forgotten.
1858, and we have arrived. Ignition off. We've done it.
We made it. We're here.
Well done. Yep, all kits out, ready to rock.
3 p.m.
We were still in the car park at the handover and they were driven past us and on their way. And we found out why. It's one Ukrainian guy explained to us that everyone he knows knew someone who's been killed. Thank you to all those people. We've got the money to take 2 more in the spring. I want to raise the money to make that 4. So until the spring, Slava Ukraine.
Yeah, there are some incredible people, aren't there? Well done to Simon. Not 1, but 4 ambulances, £36,000 raised, over £36,000 taken to Ukraine. Simon, well done.
It's a lot more now, right? It's a lot,
that was 4 of the 58. I mean, Simon is one of the directors of Help for Ukraine, so he's incredible. Right.
I actually have to head to another event soon, but I was curious, was there like a target that you're trying to reach, or is it just as much as you can get is what you're able to put to work? Because I can't.
An American and associate of yours once famously said, "Show me the money."
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I was thinking, I'm not sure if you've considered or how you would access, but there's a lot of like young YouTube type, content creators that will do these kind of things just randomly. They'll make their YouTube video contents and then they'll post it live and make ridiculous amounts of money. Like, you familiar with like Mr. Beast kind of characters?
No, I'm far too old.
Went and donated like 100 wells to Africa, built a bridge, and then he went and made this live event where people just kept donating, because as you're doing it and people get in there, they start commenting. Person puts in $1. And
I mean, Anthony, I'd love to have a conversation with you around that. I mean, when I mentioned do you remember I mentioned earlier the company that wanted to brand it their own way? One of those 4 people was actually an American, and he worked for the company in America, and he flew over just to take part. So, there is a way. I know there's an ocean between us and all that kind of stuff, but there is a way that people in North America can get involved, whether it's through that kind of sort of swelling the pot to, and it's fundamentally simple. The more money we have, the more ambulances we can buy and deliver. It's really that. The model is as simple as that. But there are other people that say, actually, I want to do that. Well, I know flights aren't cheap, but there are enough people that could afford to do it and come over, and we would look after them. So yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that, but you need to rush.
I can make that happen. Again, I'll connect you two in a group chat, and then you can connect.
Cool.
Conversation.
I got to head out to another event, though.
Thank you.
Really glad I got to come here, Phil.
No, thank you. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to our suffering event later on. Yeah.
Yes.
I know I did that. We'll talk. Take care, my friend. Take care. Have a good day.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
I mean, so that film, it's Simon. It's the same as me, right? He started off with just a small idea and said, "Hey, I want to buy an ambulance," and suddenly, he bought 4. He was instrumental in the last 8. He's been involved in other things as well. He's now a director of Help for Ukraine, along with myself and a Ukrainian lady called Olena. Great people do great things, and he has, been a huge difference to us.
Yeah, well, now we're those great people that do great things. You are one of those great people, John, but you know that already. You are. I know you're a humble guy, but you're typically British. Is what my friends will say. The understated British person, softly spoken and humble. But you do amazing things, my friend. I have to give you credit for what you do.
Thank you, but it's a team effort, right? I'm one of a team. I couldn't do it without all the other people, and I couldn't do it without all the money that people kindly donate and give, and the sponsorship we get. It's, as I said right at the beginning, if everyone just did something, just think what a difference we could all make to whatever your passion is, whether it's people sleeping rough, whether it's illnesses and disease, whether it's children, whether it's this country or that country. Just do something. It's cool.
I totally agree with you. So, I guess my frustration is that people are doing amazing things. Paul X, for example, I mentioned earlier, and I saw some pictures from on my WhatsApp today. And she's an author of children's books, and now her books are teaching kids in Uganda. And there's pictures, there's videos, there's all sorts. I'm saying, we live in a world where people will see people trying to do amazing things, help others, and they'll be like, "Oh, you are doing that. You do that. I just carry on with my life." And I think, I used to run a charity, so I'm passionate about people helping us to help others. Yeah, so
when we started this, you and I had a conversation before, and we said, about the Ukraine's going to get its territory back, and because if you think about, if we go through a sort of rough timeline, Ukraine lost a lot of territory, then it gained it back, and then it stagnated, and then we had Trump sort of trying to do a real estate deal with Putin, and and it's all about mineral rights. It's about mineral rights. It's got nothing to do with ethnic. You can't tell me the people in the northwest of Russia are the same ethnic as background and race and so on and so forth as the people in the Far East or the people in the Deep South. They're very, very different. But that doesn't mean they can't get on. It doesn't mean that they can't just internationally recognized borders and carry on with it. So when you had people trying to make a real estate deal out of it, everyone thought that was the end. Now things have changed, and it depends which form of press you read. You either read that Ukraine is winning and gaining back territory, or you read that it's stagnated. But one thing you won't read is that Russia's winning. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the war is going to carry on, and farmers who go out and farm are still going to get blown up in their tractors, because Ukraine is the world's most mined country. Now, we're not involved in the mines and stuff, but we'll certainly, provide the ambulances for those people. So, yes, it is winning its territory back, but that doesn't mean the problem's solved, and it doesn't mean the problem is going to be solved anytime soon. So with that and the fact that Russia uses drones to target ambulances and fire engines, we've got to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, like I say, you deserve all the help that we can give. That's my true belief, and I like Anthony's idea. If we can get people to even donate even £1 each, for example, then it's worth doing. But we'll look into it and we'll see how it can be done. So I'm always keen to find new ways to help my friends who do amazing things. You're that person, my friend. So it's all good. It's all good.
Thank you. Yeah, and different ways of raising money. The idea of doing the sort of the YouTube thing sounds like a fantastic idea. It's just something I wouldn't even know how or where to start, and I certainly wouldn't have the following. So we need the right people to make that happen. And yeah, we're a very lean and efficient team, right? Every penny that we raise gets used.
Yeah, well, look, this event is a good way to make friends quickly. I mean, you made at least 2 friends today. Paulette helped with the invites by inviting the British connections as well. So, you have at least 3 friends. I'm sure Cyrus and Dr. Lisa will be more than happy to support. I hope, it's Alexander also will help, and Jay, we're going to get involved. So let's connect with them. And then let's combine our efforts, like you say. Let's combine our networks. Let's combine our friends. So the next event we do. So your Mayfair Gala is on the 9th.
9th of October, next Thursday. So yeah.
Right. So I've never wanted to do just one event or anything. So I say early next week. Let's come and talk to our friends again. Let's the more times you show up, the more people actually get to see you.
Okay.
And so let's do it again, and then we'll connect with my friends in the meantime. Arrange a conversation. You never know where it might lead. That's for all of us, right? Look, a lot of our show is watched on replay. There's before now it was audio only, so this is just if you weren't here, then you didn't see it. Whereas now there's audio there, or there's video now on YouTube, and then you're streaming to your Facebook, for example.
Yep.
So I guess now tell our friends how people contact you. What's the best way to find you?
Best way to find me. So first of all, my name is John Fuggles. As a famous TV presenter once said, yes, that really is his name. Yeah, I'm easy to find with a name like John Fuggles. So you will find me on Facebook. You will find me on LinkedIn. Help for Ukraine, the number 4.charity is the website. So help4ukraine.charity is the website. You can send a message through that. That's it. I will happily receive any message through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through our website, and it will be me that responds, and we'll go from there. So please get in touch.
See, I can't help but mention that top behind you, John. The top that teases me so much. That one, yes, the football one.
So we've got the dinner next week. We've got, obviously there's an auction. We've got some works of art that are being sent by some Ukrainians. We've got some. There's a school we work with near Odessa where the children suffering from trauma, they take the shell casings and they do artwork on the shell casings, and it's part of their therapy, but then we get to auction them and raise money as well. So there's a number of things, and then there's various sort of VIP events and all that kind of stuff. But that is a football shirt from, Yarmulke, but I'm probably going to be told by someone on here that I pronounced his name wrong, but he plays for Brentford, and that is actually signed by him. I'm no good at doing this the other way around. It's signed by him.
No one is. No, saying that. I've stopped trying to point to my book in the corner.
It would point the wrong way. So it's signed by him. We've also got a football shirt signed by another footballer. There's some good auction items that people can.
Is there a Spurs player? If there's a Spurs player one, let me know. I might bid enough. I
was at Tottenham the other day at an event, but no, it wasn't. It was to do with work, I'm afraid. So the other footballer is by Zinchenko.
Yeah,
Alexander Zinchenko.
He plays with that horrible team. no, yeah, it was a Man City. They went to Arsenal. You know,
Okay.
the Woolwich, we call them.
Yeah.
let's not do football.
We got shirts on by him as well. So yeah. So and it's good. People, we just ask people and we tell them what we're doing, and they say yes. We donate. I mean, that there's an interesting story that I was at one of our neighbours had a party, and I just, like a lot of other people, went to the party. It was outside. It was a lovely summer's evening, and I got chatting to this chap at the party, complete stranger. We got onto the subject that he's a fan of Brentford, and I explained that this chap and plays for Brentford. Could he get us a signed shirt? And he immediately went, "Leave it with me. I'm a member of the supporters club. I've met him myself personally." He said, "I will get it done." And that's great. Someone just very simply goes off and does something, and suddenly there's something valuable out of that. So things happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love the point you made. It's us that do amazing things. We all can, and we all really can. If only we say, I wish more of us believed in doing above and beyond, rather than staying in our comfort zone. But look, you do well, my friend, and you deserve all your support you get. Hopefully, my friends, it's not hopefully, my friends will support you. So I do want to end on Alexander's amazing comment. So, John, your contribution is truly invaluable. You set a wonderful example for the rest of the world. Thanks for your actions. Thanks for actions like yours. Even when it sometimes feels like more could be done, we're able to stay afloat, continue our lives, and truly live. Thank you, and that's more me, right? For organizing everything, for your warm words, and for all your wonderful deeds. I'm a social worker by education. I understand the difficult paths one sometimes has to go through just to help a little. Truly, John, you and your team, you're amazing. That's a word, right? You're legends. Alexander, thank you so much for joining us. Great to, hopefully we can connect. I love to connect with you. I like to know people who my friends are. Well, of course, if you and John are connected already, then please do, right? So do connect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll give you the last word, John. I'll let you have the last word, then I'll play our song, and then.
It's just you don't have to do something big. Just if we all did something small, it would make a huge difference. And so if you want to get involved in just a small way, if you want to help, if you want to drive, if you want to raise your own money, if you want to introduce us to someone who can help, that's all I ask. Just do one small thing.
The little things make the big things, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you. So I said we'll be back again next week, early, probably Monday if I can wangle it. So do join us. Do join us then. But in the meantime, connect with John. That way, you definitely get the invite. I'm going to invite you anyway. You know what I do, my friend. So
yes.
So now I've seen you. There's no hiding from me, right? Take care, everyone. Thank you so much, John. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your night. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Every single moment is a new beat to your drama. She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.com.